In my talk will be management and restoration of degraded drylands. So you see a lot of arid drylands restoration stories, management, restoration, and drylands again. And I will go through it. Why? You see also I'm coming from a university which has the eremology, UNESCO chair on eremology. I have to explain what is eremology, what is arid land, what is drylands, what is degradation, restoration and management, and are there success stories or less successful stories? That we have to tell you, because also I just was talking with my Italian colleague, and he said, in reports you should also mention non-successful stories. Negative results are also results that we have to learn. Okay. Next one, it's not working. Okay. What is eremology? We have the chair of eremology. It's not a chair to sit on, but to be active, to work on desertification and land degradation to combat desertification. And it comes from the word, the Greek word, desert. It was launched by late Professor Théodore Monod, who was the founder of IFAN, the Institut Français d'Afrique Noire in Dakar, Senegal. And he first used this word eremology, and he said we should start some center for eremology. We did that in 1998, 89 at Ghent University, and we have a building, and there's a special branch of science which we devote to the study and management of drylands and how to combat desertification. But we have to know what is desertification. For that we built a kind of unique combination of wind tunnel with rainfall simulation, because that's never been studied in detail, this combination on a large scale with inclined rainfall, and that's because in the desert you have, in desertification country, I don't speak about desert, because that's not really aim of objective of this talk, of our work on desertification. We have to find the combination of rain and water. So now this desertification, it's already a long time that they talked about abandoned place. We also have the word eremite, we lived in an abandoned place, an empty place, a degraded place. And then we have the deforestation in the 19th century and the colonialism in the 19th century. We remember the Dust Bowl in the United States. There's wind erosion, which is really important. A few people will talk about wind erosion. And then we have this word desertification in Gebril, which was the expansion of the Sahara, which was not true at that time. It was not an expansion of desert, it was desertification. And then I have this desert marginal savanna. I hate that word, marginal, because there are no marginal lands. Because some lands can be used for other purposes, for urban purposes, for example, to build airports, to build roads. Okay, in 1972 at Stockholm, they started with the United Nations Environmental Programme for the first time because of this Sahel drought. And I underline the word drought here, because this is different from what we think, drought. It came in the news, and then we started, but it took 20 years before they decided what is really now desertification, and they came up with a rather definition as land degradation in arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid arids, and they said that these are the drylands, resulting from various factors which include the climate variation and human activities. So the real deserts, the hyper-arid zones, are not considered to be prone to desertification. You have to think about that. Now what's aridity? Eh? We have to think about aridity versus drought. This is not the same. In desertification, aridity is a permanent pluviometric deficit, permanent, long-term climatic phenomenon. And it's related to specific climatic data. What is drought? It's now a temporary pluviometric deficit, a short-term phenomena. And then we have all kinds of definitions. And then you see the word average, which I don't like, because the average of 49 and 51 is 50. The average of 0 and 100 is also 50. So what is the difference? You have to go to the extreme events. We have physical aspects, social aspects, but really are really dealing, desertification is commonly related to drought and not to aridity. You have to think about these terms. Drylands are affected in an irregular way to drought. That's why it's so difficult to study that and to combat desertification. Because we have different types of drought. Meteorological drought, hydrological drought, agricultural drought, and edaphic, or soil-related droughts. So let's see what's meteorological drought. When we said in general, when the annual precipitation is less than the average for one or several successive years. There are books written on that, there are publications written on that, and again you have that word average. For example, the Sahel in the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s. And then we had rain. Average is misleading because rain can be scattered or dry periods can alternate with periods of excessive events or excessive rains. Hydrological drought. Water resources used for industry, human and animal consumption or support of agriculture are low. What is low? There's a deficit. Related to rainfed agriculture, related to soil moisture deficit during growing season of plants. Sometimes we are more concentrating too much on agriculture. There are other applications. Because you think, when we go to policy makers, because policy briefs, I wrote or cooperate with a lot of policy briefs of 5 or 6 pages. Those people are not interested in those 6 pages. You have to give them 2 lines or 3 lines. Those people who have to decide are sitting on the 20th floor of a nice apartment. They think about it's not too warm, not too cold, it's not too wet, not too dry. Not for agriculture. But I'm an agriculture engineer, so I have to think a little bit. But you have to translate, to transfer our ideas to people who do not know, who do not care about that. That is the difficulty. So the annual or season deficit of precipitation, not a good indicator. Should be better rainfall distribution. Edaphic drought related to soils, for example, decrease in infiltration of soil because of compaction, can also be a problem of land degradation, of desertification, if you're related to deficit of water in the soil. There's an increase in runoff and erosion, the water is not entering the soil. Now, we were working a lot on delineating aridity zones. This is more easier than delineating drought zones, because we have a moisture deficit index, which we build up at the relation between the precipitation and the potential evapotranspiration. But what is that, the potential evapotranspiration? We can determine it directly in lysimeters, but there is no standardization of lysimeters. It can be big, it can be small. There are empirical formulas. We need a lot of data. For example, the Penman and Penman-Monteith, solar radiation, wind velocity, relative humidity and temperature. Who has those data? There are relations between measured potential evapotranspiration and 2 parameters. For example, the mean monthly temperature, which sometimes we have. Average number of daylight hours per month. Are there easier and more available data? Yes, sometimes the number of dry months. And we were able to make a map of Latin America dealing with these dry months. We also tried to do it with the aridity index. This is one of the works we did for Latin America and the Caribbean. Now, what are the drylands? We said that the relation between precipitation and potential evapotranspiration between 0.05 and 0.65. So there is a deficit of 95% or between 35% or 95% of water in the soil mainly. And we define that as arid zones, semi-arid zones, dry subhumid zones. No deserts. Uh-oh, something blocked here. Okay. So we have this between 0.05 and 0.65. We can have Burkina Faso, Niger, even Australia, Bolivia, all over the world we have this. And we have the map when you have these zones of dry lands. Now desertification, land degradation, and we come back on this agenda from 1992, where we have this definition on desertification. It's a decline of productivity of land, and then we have the soil degradation, erosion by water, by wind, chemical deterioration, and physical deterioration. And also have vegetation degradation, reduction of biodiversity, because the land is not only the soil. I explained yesterday that I am teaching a course, I was teaching a course because I'm retired now, you see my hair, on soil degradation. And then some people came up, I explained yesterday, said soil degradation, professor, is a sin. You may degrade it, you may not touch the soil, it's a sin. I said, how do you know that? He said, it's in the Quran and in the Bible. I said, no, because he said God created soil. I said, no way, God did not create the soil. What are the elements? The 4 elements are air, water, fire, and earth. Earth is not equal to soil. God created the earth. It's in the Bible, it's in the Quran. And then the whole class was just silence. I said to the guy, you took the course, you know who teaches the course on soil genesis? Yes, he said. Did you pass that course? Yes, he said, then you should know better. So soil degradation is not the same as land degradation. So now how can we combat desertification? How can we do the restoration and the management? There are research and practice. Yeah, there are apps. Use the word apps. There are success stories, yes, but also less successful stories. So what we did is we came back in Tunis Declaration in Tunis in 2006. People from UNU, United Nations University, UNESCO, Man and Biosphere, and we sat together and we took factors to consider in our research were climate, drylands, human activities. And there was a Tunis Declaration in 2006, a scientific conference, for priority issues for dryland research. You see those lists of priorities. Everybody wants to have his own priority. So there are no priorities, in fact. Everybody is working on a part of this declaration. And I just put one, number 2, for example, integrated management of water resources, which was related to the research we were doing. And the issue was water. Water is the issue. And for example, I had these photos from Egypt, where we have this irrigation system with the bucket and a canal along the Nile Canal. And then we have this pumping. And that's just traditional, bringing the water on the surface. I deal with a lot of irrigation. What is the problem here? They are over-pumping. Every project needed a pump. Every missionary went to the tropics needed a pump. Now we should put a meter, how much water you use. Because you do not think that the people, if they have a lot of water, that they will save the water, economize. No, they open the gate. The more water they can put, the better they think. I will tell you a story about the deficit irrigation program, FAO in Bolivia and quinoa. It does not, well, theoretically it's a very good, successful story, but it does not work. Why? The farmer do not take the risk to put a little bit less water. If he has water, he puts it on the soil. What is the solution for that? I may not say it, well, I can tell it in the public. Increase the price of water. Depending, of course, on the country, not in general, over the world. Then they will say, but the water is free, the water should be free. I was at the UNESCO inauguration of 2013 of the Year of Water. Now it's the Year of the Soil. And this was also in a discussion. Shall we give it free? The air is free, water is free, and you said yesterday, my colleague, soil is not free. Everybody has a property. And that's a big problem. Maybe we have to put a value on the water. On the air, it's rather difficult. So that's what we have to face. But traditional versus modern technology, on the right side there is a reservoir with a sediment trap in Tunisia, where instead of those Roman reservoirs are filled up with sediment, now the sediment is just caught in here in this reservoir before the water is entering in this reservoir. It's entering. Oh, the mouse is not working already. It's rather slow, huh, here? I'll try to. Maybe I can put it here. Maybe, yeah, let's put it better, yeah. Traditional technology should go hand in hand with modern knowledge, but modern technology go with traditional knowledge. Was it better in the past? My grandfather and my father said yes. But it was, I said, if it was so good in the past, why did we change it? Or did you change it? No, we have to go hand in hand, the traditional technology with modern knowledge, and so the traditional knowledge with the modern technology. I go to point number 4. I skip because these are all priorities. Assessing dryland ecosystem dynamics. Water harvesting impactment assessment. This was a good story, the WAHIA project, also UNU project, UNESCO. Rain-fed farming using water harvesting techniques. And what is the surface area of this terrace in function of the impluvium of the slopes around it, which can catch the water coming down? How many olive trees can we put on this terrace, and can in this watershed can we put more terraces? So it's, individual family can be supported by these olive trees, almond trees, and also by their sheep and goats. That's another story, sheep and goats, pastoralism. Or in zanjas, infiltration canals, in a project in Chile, Casales Center for Water, in the dry lands, dry zones, regions of Latin America and Caribbean, to catch the water from the slopes and to grow trees or plants. Or these micro catchments in water harvesting techniques in Cabo Verde to catch the water and to grow this Prosopis juliflora plantation. The annual precipitation, well, I do not call it annual precipitation, the 3 days precipitation per year is about 100 millimeters total. So we have to catch that water to grow this Prosopis juliflora. The FAO project also, or this microcatchment is another photo. Now I said soil and land is not different. We have to management. And I put man as management in capitals. Management. Because if you go to, well, there are people here from Hebrew, they said Adama was the soil, is that correct? Yes. First man is human, Adam, from the soil. This painting is from one of the paintings in our cathedral in Ghent, Adam and Ava. And Homo is derived from humus, so they're all related. And Gaia is the goddess of the earth, so Gaia is soil, earth, land, so a little bit everything. And when we put the word ergon, we have soil management, or land management. And we have the name George or Joshua, or Jose. And in Spanish it's hambre, in France, human, humus, homo. So the human is touching the soil, and it's management. And we have these ecosystems which are managed by the human. Now what is soil management? This is the logo of our faculty, men working on the field in agriculture with this. And more than 6,000 years ago, we had this irrigation and plowing exist already. We were working on the water, soil, and we worked on that. That was soil management. Then came Newton, and we have this physics. Now we have called this soil physics also. And then we have this science of agriculture with Liebig, with the soil fertility, which is all management, soil management. And now we are managing behind our computer. My successor, one of the Professor van Ranst, was teaching soil. And the people from FAO came, the director came last week or 2 weeks ago to the faculty. We were talking about, he said, the year of the soil, what shall we do? And he, the professor, is we should put people in the pit to study the soil and not behind the computer. Should go in the field. Are there success stories? Yes. We have management of degraded land. We have this project which is called Sumamat. Sumamat from 2005 to 2013. It was sustainable management of marginal dry land. We skipped that word marginal because that does not exist. It was sponsored by the Man and Biosphere program of UNESCO, UNU, and this Institute for Water, Environment and Health, and with Trust Fund from Belgium, and with this UNESCO chair. We worked 8 years. Some of the objectives, because I put just number 2 and 3 are related to what we are talking here. Land degradation in marginal land through rehabilitation efforts of degraded lands and improved productivity through identification of wise practices. Wise. What were the partners? Tunisia, Egypt, Jordan, Iran, Pakistan, India, China, Burkina Faso, Bolivia, and Syria dropped out, and also Uzbekistan dropped out. And they came in Burkina Faso and Bolivia in 2010. For example, Tunisia, Institut de Région Aride, the projects were groundwater recharge wells, just a captation of runoff water and reforestation of the Bouedma Reserve, which will still continue, hope to continue. So the water was caught in some valleys, and then there was some wells were drilled, some tubes were put into the soil to a depth of 20 meters to fill up the groundwater. Problems with sediment, we have to put filters around that. This was a failure. About 20 of those pits, only 2 are still alive because of sedimentation. Bouedma, reforestation with Acacia radiana. The problem is that there was in this reserve, shall we plant in clusters, shall we plant on lines, shall we plant individual trees? Can we change climate? Climate change. Can we combat climate change? I think we can combat microclimate change. So that was, can we have another microclimate under the trees in this reserve if we plant trees, yes or no? This study is still going on. The problem is that after a while when we stopped, then people, and the project stops. There is no money, that's always. They are not supporting. And besides that, there was reclamation, there was protest or comments from the people living outside of the reserve. They say, you put a lot of money in the reserve to keep the reserve, why don't you plant outside the reserve? That is now going on, the discussion. Egypt, Omayed Biosphere village. The project was solar systems for water desalination in dry lands. It's expensive, yes or no, there's a lot of sun. For local communities, for a few houses, put solar systems. This was already a photo from 2005. Is it working? Yes and no, because in 2006 they stole everything. This was not protected, and they're using this system for other things. That was another problem. Jordan, the Dana Biosphere, the objective was to develop a community-based grazing management. In this community, and then you see this grazing. What do you prefer, goats or sheep? That was the question. Why? Why goats?
Personal feelings.
No, they use goats, but why not? Why goats? Goats eat everything. I can show a photo from goats climbing 4 meters high in trees. They eat everything. They pull everything out, the roots, and the sheep not. But goats are capital, are treasure. You can buy things with goats. I do not say what you can buy. But if you have 20 goats, you can buy something. No, they don't care about the 20 sheep. Goats, the meat is more, the cattle reaper is more productive. That's the problem also. Pastoralism is a problem. You have to take care of that. We're trying to introduce the sheep. I will tell you another story. Iran, the Gebril plain, efficiency of floodwater spreading. In the dry lands, over here, we have extreme events where a lot of water comes in a short time. You used to try to catch that water. In a serpentine system, Professor Kausar had this United Nations award for this system. And we also have to, this plant diversity also in this to planting, where you have the flood water, you have water, you can grow plants. I come back maybe on this, if I have some time, on this plantation of Radiana, Acacia radiana in Tunisia. A guy came to me who worked in Tunisia, but not in a little bit north, in Gabes, or around this the same area, Gabes. And he said, what I found out, he said, when we have an area, not a desert, a degraded land with a few trees, when a cloud comes over, the rain falls, the rain does not reach the soil, the surface, because evaporation already. If we could attract that rain to the soil, then we have water in the soil. If we plant trees, that was the, how do we plant trees? So first of all, they planted trees, which are not very small, irrigate and irrigate when you have a kind of forest. And then you see that the water is coming because you change the microclimate. And you change the evaporation. And you change the temperature above it. And then because we have less temperature, 2 or 3 degrees, we have more chance that the water, the rainwater is reaching the soil. This still has to be proven, but it was a good idea. And then we were working on that also. Same was happening in Iran to grow this different plants diversity. Also, they have these wells to bring the water into the groundwater, and also to we had also measure with tensiometers to see how deep the water is infiltrating and so forth. Pakistan, also Biosphere Reserve, rehabilitation of degraded dryland ranges. This was chicken farming. Was this successful in Pakistan? They started after we had a very successful story, and I will tell you afterwards in China, where this degraded land because of overgrazing by sheep was just compacted soil. The chicken was just sent out in this about 200 hectares area, degraded land, with the manure and with they scrap in the soil and they make another biodiversity. They don't say that they grow plants, but you see the grasses. This was a successful story. I hope in Pakistan it will also be successful. After a few years, 7 years, I'll skip to this one, China project, was chicken farming with 500 chickens. They have 22,000 chickens in 7 years. They said to UNESCO, we don't need your support anymore. We are self-supporting because they had this egg fair. They produced eggs. They produced small chickens. They have the chickens. We have it's the same project in Malawi 4 years ago, 5 years ago, which failed. The reason was the following. They had this chicken, 500 or something, 600. They had the eggs. They eat the eggs. You find on the internet Malawi is the country where they eat most of the country with produces eggs, but they eat the eggs. They like the eggs. After a while, the chicken are not laying eggs anymore. So they killed the chicken. And they said, oh, we don't have chicken. Please send us money that we can buy a new chicken. No, said the Chinese. We do not need your chicken, your money. We have a lot of people working on it also. We produced 20,000 chicken and can mitigate the grassland degradation. This yield more profit, he said, than traditional sheep raising. This was a successful story. And I hope we have this successful story also in Pakistan with the chicken. I'm not a chicken farmer. Eh? No, in the Thar Desert, it was really on the fringe of the desert. It was not really. We had the project Arabic gum production, composting techniques using farm wastes, because the farm waste was used for building construction. We said, well, maybe you don't have to use all of that. Use something to make compost, and they did. They had also this nursery for replanting, and now they do the compost. Is that successful? Yes and no. Why not? Because the compost Every time you have different compost, the sources are not the same. The quality of the compost is not the same. So you don't have that in hand. The organic material comes when they have organic material. This is a chicken farming system. What they do is this small houses where the chicken can shelter, can go when there is too hot. In Mongolia, 40 degrees, they have to go there, they lay their eggs in there. And that's what they do with this chicken farming. The other one in Burkina Faso, the reserve de la Mare Hippopotame, and we have project on water economy and adapting the water farming system with agroforestry. Like this, in the reserve, agroforestry. They changed this system because before they were cotton, they grow cotton on the fringes of this reserve. And cotton is using a lot of water. So the groundwater table was lowering down. Also the lake, the Hippopotame Lake, the water level was going down. So they had to change it. But cotton, the income was high for cotton. So we have to find another system. And we don't only do it with agroforestry, because you have to wait some time for this production, but also for local activity to produce what they do, soap or other products to sell on the market. Bolivia, southern Bolivian Altiplano, 4,000 meters above sea level. Deficit irrigation for production of quinoa. I told you that this was a story which was a success from the theoretical, from the scientific point of view, but not from the practical point of view. You can not tell the farmer that he has to use less water to have the same production. The same production or even a little bit less. Then we have this on the International Hydrological Program, this COSWAN, the workshop on conservation of soil and water in the Andean countries of Latin America, with local farmers and their family members, can be also with the wives, because the wives have the money, they sell it on the market, and they have also they run the syndicates, the unions. For example, this way, Altiplano, alpaca and llama, and also vegetables in greenhouses. Or less successful stories also. This one, windbreaks along the roads in Tunisia, kilometers of windbreaks, and you see this sand encroachment on the roads. They have to clean the roads. Why? It's not, but they have windbreaks. 1,000 kilometers failed. We put a fence, a screen in the Sahel around, this in Tunisia also, it's not in the desert. And then the sand was coming in saltation, because the first to 1 meter high. I'm just asking the question. You can raise your hand. Where is the wind? What is the wind direction? From right to left or from left to right? Who says from left to right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody from right to left, from the right to the left? This is correct. Why? Because if the wind is coming from the right, it's catching water, soil, sand. Fine sand, medium sand. The wind is broken, the velocity is broken, and the sand is deposited behind the screen. So what happens here? The wind is coming from right to left with sand. The velocity is broken, it's going down, the sand is deposited on the road. If you don't believe me, I tell you this one. This is Dr. Catelli, the director of the Institut de Région Aride in Medellin. On the year 1, you see the wind is coming from the right, carrying sand, deposit in the windbreak, deposit on the road. Watch those, but I cannot show it with the, oh yeah, no, I cannot show it. This behind there, these small trees there on the back of the slide. Year 1, year 2, you see the sand is more moving, year 2. Year 3, and you see already some roads, new roads here. And there is no sand, nothing on that road. Because it's on a distance from this windbreak. It's a bit deposit there. There is wind, of course, but there's no sand. And that's what they did. They put windbreaks at a distance from the roads. There's no sand on the road. Successful story, yes, after a while. Or here before, sand dune fixation at a distance from the road. And then when we went to Kuwait, well, after the Gulf War, we had fences to protect the new drilling of oil wells, only 1 meter high, at a distance from the well. This was also then, I hope so, was a successful story. And in the near future, we hope to have this Desert Land Conference, but it's not the 2013, it's now in June 2015. 17 June, United Nations Convention on Desertification, the World Day on Combating Desertification, and you still can register and come to Ghent, 16 and 17 June 2015. Thanks a lot.